Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. We are excited you have decided to join us today.
Hey, welcome back to the Elevate Podcast, you guys. I am so excited to be back in the studio. Had some amazing things happening the past few weeks. In fact, I was on a trip to South Africa, so it's good to be back in the studio with you guys.
What's up, everybody? Tony Frasconi. It is good to be back. I feel like we got the team back together. I missed a few episodes. I was on my own hiatus, I guess, as well, but nothing like South Africa, so I can't wait to dive into that with you.
Yeah, it's exciting to be back here too, and excited to hear about your hiatus and also about Robert's trip and some leadership lessons learned along the way.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to chat with you guys. I learned something at a different level while I was gone, and let me preface it with a story, okay? So I got invited by my friend, who you guys both know, Dave Robbs, works with the Puyo Project. So he does a lot of business development, specifically down in South Africa. And he invited me along on this trip, and I know nothing about South Africa. I know some about business, and I know about leadership. And so I was excited. I just finished writing my book. It's on its way to get published right now. And so I'm thinking, well, I've got some great content, in my humble opinion, that I can go and share, right? And
let's just pause right there for just a second about, is it Puyo Project?
The Puyo Project.
Puyo Project. Let's just give a shout out to that and explain to the listeners what that is. So everyone
the
knows.
Puyo Project is, it's a Xhosa term, which is the South African language for making a way. Awesome. And so Dave has been going down there for the last, I don't know, he's gone 15 times. So I went with him on his 15th trip. And I would love to get him on the podcast at some point because he has so many stories of success that's going on down there, lives that have been transformed through business, and just how it shapes the community in general. And I truly believe, based on my time down there, for all of you friends who are in South Africa listening right now, I know I shared this with you when I was down there, but you guys are on the cusp of some change that is going to be amazing, and I'm really excited for you guys. I'm excited to see what comes of it when I come back. But Puyo Project really goes down there and takes people and helps them understand business and does business development specifically with with.
So you gotta be immersed in that and go down there and then
it was trial by fire. And,
launch this experience with us.
Like I said, I didn't really have a lot of context to prepare for this trip, right? How many times am I talking? Who's my audience? Because I don't know these people. And so
you're wondering how to get prepared.
I was trying to figure out how do I best prepare for this? And it didn't help that on my trip down there, I'm thinking I'm going to use my plane trip, because I got a 40-hour trip to prepare.
It's a long ways to the other side of the world, isn't it?
Did you take your whole family?
I did.
You did, so kids and everything.
Kids, my wife. We had a 40-hour trip, and Dad got sick on the way there.
Man.
I'm not going to even talk about it on this podcast.
Save us the details, please. Oh, man.
It was cool to have the whole family, for sure. But I was, like I was saying, I was planning to use my plane to prepare the trip, right? So the airtime. And it's also 9 hours ahead of us. And so me not being a world traveler just in general, didn't plan for any of that, right? So I get to South Africa and I've got my first speaking engagement. I have just been sick. I slept pretty much the whole day,
after
South African
arriving.
time, after arriving, just to heal. And I've got my first speaking engagement, and I don't know my audience, and I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And the lesson that I learned, and you guys can shed some light on this as well, was that preparation equals success, okay? And I'm not saying preparation in the sense of I didn't prepare for my talk, okay? I'm talking preparation in that my entire life has been preparation for this moment, has been preparation to give this talk. I have plenty that I can share, plenty that I can talk about, and it came out great. It wasn't that I had to prepare for the talk. It was that I had to prepare to share from my heart, right? All of the life experiences that I've had. And so I felt confident going up there and being able to share, whereas you guys both know my story that, being afraid to speak in high school caused me to change high schools, to get out of a presentation. And to see the transformation of going from a scared, frightened little boy to going to a new country with people I don't know and being okay with just being able to share. And so I wanted to talk about preparation equaling success for all of our listeners out there who maybe think that preparation is in just preparing for the talk.
Yeah, I think, Robert, when you said that and presented that to us a little bit earlier before the podcast, I was thinking completely differently until you said preparation through your life. Yeah. And all of us have life experiences that lead us and create expertise in us that we don't know until it's time for it to be tapped into. And you're sharing the story of you didn't know what to do and then being sick, yet you still were able to deliver a great talk that added value to the people in that South African community is outstanding.
It's also a testament to, leaders really aren't built in a day, they're built daily. And so when we take those leadership lessons and the life lessons that we have and we truly reflect on them, because I think, in this fast-paced world that we live in right now, reflection is often missed. To say, what did I learn from this? What can I take away? How did I show up? And what can I do better next time?
I want to get into that moment or the moments, up to you're going to address now the people there, right? Yeah. So there's this reflection that you've had since then about, okay, this preparation. But for those in our audience that are the type A detailed people, and they're like, I would never get up there without my note cards or spending hours to plan out exactly, take us through kind of what went through your mind and through, it sounds like really coming from your heart and from a different, you approach this in a different way.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out how to help people understand that balance that you were prepared for this moment, not necessarily prepared for the speech.
Yeah. So that's so good, because I typically am the person who prepares. I think God was teaching me a lesson in this, which is why I'm bringing it up today.
Yeah.
Because I generally prepare for every talk that I do. I go through it multiple times and really figure out how am I showing up? What are my pauses? Where are the times that the audience is going to be needing some space to process?
Sure.
And really giving God the space to do that through my talk was liberating for me, because I had a general idea. I mean, like I said, I finished my book. And I've been thinking about this content for a year plus, right? Just processing through it, and what does it really mean, and how do I live it out every day?
Sure.
Well,
let me ask you this, and Mike, you might know too, because you've given so many speeches and talks. When you are in that space of maybe being a little bit less prepared, do you think that opens up your heart and mind a little bit more to reading the room and to really connecting with the people there to see how can I deliver something that might touch them and something that they actually want and need versus what I want to say?
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you have, is what does your audience need from you versus what is it that I want to say? And I think that maybe the piece that Robert's really getting to is that he had all this content, but until he stepped in front of the people and saw who they were and maybe heard their stories a little bit before he came on stage, this is what they need.
Yeah,
doesn't matter what I have to say, but this is what they need, and how can I connect with them?
Well, the first talk that I did was at it was just outside of Jeffreys Bay, and Jeffreys Bay, beautiful little surf town, fairly well-to-do, touristy. But just outside of it, there's poverty-stricken community of people there who have been oppressed, who have been hurt, who have been feeling like a lot of pain in their lives, right? And at that moment, I walked in and was open with every single one of us have experienced pain. but the purpose is to find wholeness through that pain, right? And I was able to share some of my own journey, but like you said, I would not have been able to share any of that had I not just observed who these people are, understood some of the pain points that they've got in just being in poverty and having oppression and all of that I would have walked in with what I wanted to say, rather than having that space for what do they need from me? How can I add value?
Yeah. And were your children and your wife, were they there on
They
all
were
these,
with me
all these
on
talks
all
that
of
you
it.
gave?
Everything. Yep.
And what a gift to, I mean, just thinking about like generational, legacy of being able to leave something with your children where they're going to remember that for the rest of their lives. I mean, I still remember my dad was a barber, so I remember sweeping up the shop and listening to my dad speak with his customers and relate to them and connect with them. Yeah. And that's left such a huge impact with me. And people are always like, man, Tony, you relate to people so well. And I credit my dad because it was like I watched him do it. I watched him serve other people, put them first. Yeah. And your children get to literally see you do this. And it's just really cool, man.
It was such a blessing. And I will say, that's all of us. Every single one of us needs to visually see someone else and what leadership looks like and how it's modeled, right? Because we can say, treat others how you want to be treated. But unless you see it, right, it can mean a lot of different things.
Words are one thing, behavior is a whole nother.
Absolutely. Right. And I feel like even within behavior, it's not even, we don't want to modify behavior. We want to transform lives. Right. And so by our model showing up, we want people to understand something even deeper than behavior modification. It's understanding truth. It's understanding other people,
This connection that we all have, this authentic connection that we all have and that we all desire, whether we know it or not, tapping into that.
And I guess I would say to, through preparation, there's people out there who are like starting a new project in their business, maybe a new sector in their business, a new arm. Maybe they're just starting a business. I don't know what it looks like, but
the VRBO, maybe somebody like bought a house in Arizona is trying to rent it out. Or
do
something.
An Airbnb type of thing. I don't know, but whatever it is, we all look to preparation and the success that preparation brings. I don't want any of us to overthink it. I don't want any of us to over prepare in the sense that it's about us. It's about the message that we want to share, but it's about our audience. It's about connecting with them and what they need from us. Whether that's a customer that we're serving or a child that we get the opportunity to lead and love. So I just want to leave that with our audience right now, just because it was such a powerful lesson for me to learn personally.
That's so great, Robert. I think, even with this podcast, right? When we started this podcast, we didn't know what we didn't know. Mm-hmm. And we could have spent hours and days and weeks listening to podcasts about starting a podcast or reading books and all the things, right? And did we find some other people that were interested and gave some licensure to do this? Yeah, we did, and we jumped on and we're doing it together, and we figured out some stuff along the way, and that's been part of the joy of doing it. But had we focus so much on preparation, or I think sometimes strategy. We think, okay, I got to have all the strategy, and we've heard that the quote before: "Culture will eat strategy for breakfast," or something like that, right? And so it's like that's what you're talking about. You're like this culture of connectivity, this culture of love, and this culture of openness, and how to lead, how to be a leader with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good, Tony.
I love that you brought up this podcast because it's such a good illustration of that. But also in the fact that it's still not perfect. We're still learning every single episode. We still get feedback from people on things that we can work on and improve. And so I think there's a valuable lesson in starting right now with what you have and then growing it naturally,
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about that before, about just wherever you're at, taking a step,
Yep.
And just taking that step forward, like you did when you stepped up on the stage, not knowing exactly what you're going to talk about, you've got to take that step forward in faith and know that the next step will show up. Just like all of us have driven down a road, and we trust that around that corner of the road, there's still going to be more road.
Yeah.
And we know that in our mind. The same thing is when we're doing something when we're a little bit afraid, is taking that step and then the next step and the next right step. And then pretty soon you gain momentum and you're off and doing great things.
Yeah, that's good. That when you're talking about the road, my 80s kid came out in me. I was thinking about Back to the Future. And when you hit 88 miles an hour, where we're going, we don't need roads. You know?
I love it.
That's good.
Just skid marks, flaming skid marks. That's all we need.
Well, this is so great because I think we're going to have a whole new, we've got a whole new group of listeners, in South Africa now. And we found through the data that we look, some of the metrics we get on this from the podcast, we have listeners in other countries.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Yeah, I think we're in 6 other countries now, you guys. We need to celebrate a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to
Super
come up.
cool.
We need to be thoughtful about how we say hello and goodbye.
That's right.
We got to come up with some words.
So I want to share with you guys a couple of South African words that I learned while I was there, okay? Because the family that we went down there that was kind of hosting us, amazing people. Marshall, Martha, Jehu, Eshan, Rayun, we love you guys. So thankful for you guys hosting us. Eshan rode in the backseat of our car a couple of times with my daughter Sophia. So Jehu and my son Bobby and Eshan and Sophia are like the same age. And as soon as we got there, it was like instant friendship, instant family. And Eshan's sitting in the back seat, and I said something about popping the trunk so we can get some stuff out of it. And she's like, "I'm sorry, what?" She's like, "Oh, you mean the boot?" So from that point on, now the trunk is the boot. So we got to get stuff out of the boot. That's what we call it. And then we also learned that a pickup truck is called a bakkie.
A bakkie.
A bakkie. Yeah.
Boot and a bakkie.
A boot and a bakkie. So you guys, when you're driving on the road, a boot is the truck or the trunk, and then a bakkie is a truck.
Okay. It's kind of like when I moved from California up to here and everyone's calling soda a pop. They're like, "Hey, can I get you a pop?" I'm like, "You mean a soda? I'll take a soda."
So funny.
Yeah.
Even in the United States, there's so many different. I've got my niece's husband is from North Carolina, and I cannot remember. I think he calls a cart a buggy. And I was like, went to the grocery store, go get the buggy. It's like, what are you talking about? Anyway,
Love it.
Yeah,
But hey,
it's
you
cool.
got to still stay on the right side of the road, right?
Well, yeah, going over there was different. Driving on the other side of the road, I'll tell you, took me a little bit, but
But
no
here-
one made it out
Left
alive.
side's right. The left side's right.
Yes,
Correct.
You drive on the left, in the passenger seat. It's crazy. Yeah, it was actually really cool. So,
Well, good. Thanks for sharing, Robert.
absolutely, you guys. I'm excited to jump into the next episode with you guys and continue the conversation about leadership.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for sharing and bringing this back to our listeners and to us.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people their lives are going to be touched hearing some of these stories from that trip.
Love it. Yeah, you guys, next week we're going to jump in. Attitude is determined by, or your altitude is determined by your attitude. So follow, subscribe, share.
Like, subscribe, share.
That's what it is. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care.
right.
Elevate
care.
Podcast out.
Thanks for joining us today on the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. For a deeper dive into the content and to get access to resources like our free show notes, go to countercultureleaders.podcast